The glass fell from my hand. It didn't just slip. It shattered. The sound was sharp, loud. Every head in the restaurant turned toward me. For half a second, nobody spoke. Wine spread across the white marble floor, crawling toward my shoes like blood. Tiny pieces of glass reflected the yellow lights above us. I could smell the sharp, bitter wine mixed with expensive perfume. I stood frozen. 3 seconds earlier, I had been laughing. 6 months before that, I had still believed my life was simple. And now, everyone was looking at me. That was the moment my life split into before and after. My name is Adam Hale. I was 32 years old at the time. People saw me as quiet, polite, unimpressive, the kind of man who listens more than he speaks, the kind of man who never causes trouble. My wife's family often described me with words like nice and harmless. In their language, that meant weak. I worked in tech, at least that's what I told most people. I dressed simple. I drove an average car. I never talked about money. I never corrected anyone when they underestimated me. That was my mistake. Or maybe that was my advantage. The restaurant was called La Varelle. It was the kind of place where waiters wore black gloves and never smiled too much. Crystal glasses, soft piano music, a place built for rich people to remind each other that they were rich. My wife's family loved places like this. They loved being seen. That night was supposed to be a celebration. My father-in-law's birthday. His name was Richard Collins. Tall, gray hair, sharp eyes. A man who had built his entire personality around power. He owned construction companies, property, connections. He spoke loudly. He laughed louder. When he shook your hand, he squeezed just a little too hard, just to remind you who he was. He had never respected me. Not once. Adam, he used to say, smiling without warmth. Still playing with computers? Everyone would laugh. I would smile. Swallow it, I always told myself. Peace is cheaper than pride. My wife, Emily, sat beside me that night. She looked beautiful. She always did. Soft blue dress. Hair tied back. Calm smile. She trusted me. That fact would haunt me later. And then, I saw him. Richard. Standing near the bar. Looking straight at me. Not angry. Not surprised. Just disappointed. And knowing. His eyes moved. From my face. To the woman standing near the window. Her name was Lena. She was a consultant I had met through work. Smart, calm, dangerous in quiet ways. What started as long talks turned into late dinners. Late dinners turned into something I never planned. Or maybe something I never stopped. She wasn't touching me. She wasn't smiling. But Richard didn't need more. He had seen enough. Our eyes met. He nodded once. Slow, controlled. A promise without words. I'll deal with you later. My chest tightened. I should have left. I should have said something. Instead, I stayed. That was my second mistake. Dinner continued. Plates arrived. Glasses refilled. Conversations overlapped. Richard told stories about deals and betrayals and lessons learned the hard way. Every story felt aimed at me. I barely tasted the food. My heart beat loud in my ears. Then Richard stood up. He lifted his glass. Everyone, he said, smiling, thank you for coming tonight. Applause. He turned slightly. His eyes locked on mine. And some of us, he continued, should remember that loyalty is not optional. It's the price of respect. The room went quiet. Emily looked at me, confused. I felt heat rise to my face. He's going to expose me, I thought. Right here, right now. My hand shook. That's when the glass fell. Silence. Then laughter. Not kind laughter. The kind that cuts. A man at the next table whispered something. Someone else smirked. A waiter rushed over. I'm sorry, I said quickly, bending down. But Richard raised his hand. No, he said calmly. Let him stand. I froze. He walked toward me. Slow steps. Heavy shoes. You know, he said loudly, a man who cannot hold a glass usually cannot hold a family either. Laughter exploded. Emily's face went pale. I couldn't breathe. Say something, my mind screamed. Fight back. But my mouth stayed shut. Richard leaned closer. His voice dropped. Only I could hear him. I saw you, he said. With her. My blood turned cold. I won't tell my daughter, he continued. Not yet. I looked up shocked. But he smiled. I will teach you something tonight. He straightened and turned to the room. My son-in-law, he announced, has something he'd like to say. Every eye was on me. My throat burned. I, nothing came out. Richard tilted his head. Speak. The room waited. I felt small, naked, crushed. I'm sorry, I finally said. It sounded weak, pathetic. Richard nodded. Good, he said. Seat. He said. My hands were numb. Emily stared at me, searching my face for answers. I couldn't look at her. Dinner ended soon after. People hugged, said goodbyes, smiled like nothing had happened. But inside me, something broke. In the parking lot, Richard stopped me. Alone, cold night air, yellow streetlights. You think I'm stupid? He asked. No, sir, I said. He stepped closer. You embarrassed me, he said calmly. And you disrespected my daughter. I stayed silent. I won't destroy you today, he continued. That would be too easy. He leaned in. I want you to live with this, he whispered. Every day. Then he stepped back. Fix yourself, he said. Or I will. He walked away. I sat in my car for a long time. Didn't start the engine. Didn't move. He thinks I'm nothing, I realized. They all do. My phone buzzed. A message from Lena. Did he see us? I stared at the screen. Then I did something quiet. Something small. Something final. I opened my contacts and made a call. Hey, I said calmly when the line connected. It's time. I looked at the dark windshield. The reflection staring back at me wasn't weak anymore. It was focused, cold, and done being humiliated. If you're enjoying this story so far, stay with me. Because what happened next wasn't loud. It was planned. 6 months before that dinner, my life already had cracks. They were small at first, easy to ignore, like hairline fractures in glass. You don't notice them until everything breaks. 6 months before, most people thought I worked a normal tech job. They were wrong. I didn't correct them because silence protected me. I was a systems architect for private financial networks. Simple words? I built digital systems that moved money quietly and safely. Hedge funds, family offices, people who never appear in magazines. I didn't work for companies. I worked for power. My income didn't come as a salary. It came as percentages, equity, silent contracts, money that didn't need a shout. By 32, I had more money than my father-in-law ever guessed. But I lived small, because big lives attract attention, and attention creates enemies. Richard Collins loved attention. He loved reminding people that everything they touched came from him, especially me. It happened at a family barbecue. Richard handed me a drink. Careful, he laughed. Don't spill it like last time. Everyone laughed. Emily smiled politely. She thought it was a joke. I didn't. That night, I heard him tell his business partner. He's a good guy. Weak but useful. Useful. Like furniture. I swallowed it. Then came the jokes. Adam wouldn't survive a real business deal. Ask Richard, not Adam. Adam's job is what exactly? Each time, I stayed quiet. Each time, they pushed a little more. Disrespect grows when you feed it silence. I met Lena through a contract review. She saw through me fast. You hide, she said once. What? I didn't answer. She wasn't loud. She wasn't dramatic. She asked questions that made you think. We talked late. Too late. I crossed a line I told myself I'd never cross. That betrayal would come back to punish me, but not the way anyone expected. 2 months before the dinner, something felt off. Richard started asking questions. Not directly, casually. So, Adam, how's work? Still remote. How stable is that industry? Really? He was fishing. I hired a private investigator. Quiet. Professional. No emotions. 3 weeks later, he sent me a file. Richard wasn't clean. Not even close. The truth about Richard. 3 properties mortgaged twice. 1 offshore account under investigation. A silent partner threatening to sue. Fake invoices. A mistress in another city. And a tax problem buried under shell companies. The empire was hollow. Expensive on the outside. Rotten inside. Interesting, I thought. Then I found out something worse. Emily's brother. My brother-in-law. He had used my name. Signed me into a risky investment deal without permission. If it failed, I would be responsible. That wasn't an accident. That was family loyalty aimed the wrong way. That night, I stopped feeling hurt. I started feeling clear. I didn't yell. I didn't threaten. I prepared. Slowly. Carefully. Like surgery. First, I secured my assets, moved money, locked accounts, created distance. Second, I collected proof. Emails, calls, contracts, voice recordings. Third, I spoke to lawyers. Plural, not emotional ones. Precise ones. Fourth, I waited. Because timing is everything. People think silence means weakness. They're wrong. Silence is loading. When Richard humiliated me, he thought he won. He thought fear lived in my chest. What he didn't know, I had already mapped every move he could make. I already knew how this would end. That phone call I made in the car, it wasn't anger. It was confirmation. Execute phase 1, I said. The voice on the other end replied calmly. Understood. Richard believed he taught lessons. He didn't realize. He had just stepped into mine. The dinner wasn't over. Not for me. Not yet. We were still in the private dining room. Dessert plates sat untouched. Coffee steamed in thin white cups. People talked again, but softer now. Careful. Richard believed the moment had passed. He was wrong. I stood up. Slowly. My chair made a soft sound on the floor. Every conversation stopped. Adam. Emily asked quietly. I looked at her. I need 5 minutes, I said. My voice didn't shake. That surprised even me. Richard smiled. That fake, confident smile. Sit down, he said lightly. You've embarrassed yourself enough. I didn't sit. I pulled out my phone. Richard, I said, do you remember telling me that loyalty is the price of respect? He nodded. Good, I replied. Then let's talk about yours. The room went cold. I tapped my phone. A voice filled the room. Richard's voice. Clear. Recorded. Move the money through the Cyprus account. Don't use my name. If anyone asks, deny everything. Silence. Someone dropped a spoon. Richard's face lost color. That's illegal, someone whispered. Richard laughed nervously. Fake, he said. Anyone can edit audio now. I nodded. You're right, I said. So let's add documents. I connected my phone to the screen on the wall. Emails appeared. Dates. Amounts. Names. His mistress's name appeared. His business partner's name appeared. His signature. Big. Clear. Undeniable. Time slowed down. Richard blinked. Once. Twice. His wife covered her mouth. My brother-in-law leaned back, sweating. Emily stood up. Adam, she whispered. I held up my hand. Please, I said. Just listen. I turned to my brother-in-law. Mark, I said calmly. You used my name for a loan. He shook his head fast. No. I tapped again. A contract appeared. His signature. My forged signature beside it. Forgery is a felony, I said simply. Mark went pale. My phone buzzed. A message appeared. I looked at Richard. Your accounts are frozen, I said. Every one tied to my systems. He stepped forward. You can't do this. I already did, I replied. The room felt smaller. I also sent these files, I continued, to 3 agencies. I named them. No need to explain. Richard's knees weakened. He grabbed the table. This is family, he hissed. I met his eyes. So was your respect, I said. I took a breath. This one mattered. I know about the woman in Boston, I said. His wife gasped. And the child support you never paid. She stared at him. You promised me, she said softly. Richard said nothing. There was nothing left. Guests stood up. Phones came out. Whispers spread. The empire collapsed without sound. Just air leaking out. I turned to Emily. I will explain everything, I said. Later. She nodded slowly. Tears in her eyes. Then I faced Richard one last time. Happy birthday, I said quietly. I hope this year gives you exactly what you deserve. I walked out. I didn't look back. The silence after the storm was strange. No shouting. No phone calls. No threats. Just space. By the next morning, everything had changed. Lawyers called. Banks sent notices. News traveled fast. Faster than truth, slower than fear. Richard's company stopped operating. Employees showed up to locked offices. His partners stopped answering his calls. That same day, Emily packed a bag. She didn't scream. She didn't cry. She just looked tired. I need time, she said quietly. I understand, I replied. And I meant it. 3 days later, divorce papers arrived. Not angry ones. Clean ones. I signed without a fight. I didn't try to explain myself yet. Some truths need silence first. Over the next weeks, Richard's properties went into foreclosure. Mark was charged with fraud. The mistress disappeared. Friends stopped calling. Power has friends. Failure doesn't. At night, I thought about Emily. About trust. About the line I crossed. I felt regret. But not guilt. There's a difference. I regretted hurting her. I did not regret ending the lie. 1 year later, my life looked different. No more family dinners. No more fake smiles. I moved to a quiet place near the water. I worked less. Lived more. I started funding small scholarships. Quiet ones. No names. No headlines. Helping without being seen felt better than revenge ever did. I met someone new. Not dramatic. Not complicated. She asked who I was, not what I owned. That mattered. Richard thought power was loud. He was wrong. Real power is calm. It waits. It acts once. If there's one thing I learned, it's this. Never beg for respect. Never explain your worth. And never confuse silence with weakness. To you, reading this, if this story resonated with you, remember, build quietly. Protect your peace. Walk away when respect ends. Because the best revenge is a life they can't touch. Thank you for listening. Subscribe for more stories.